The Mendez family had lived in the United States for nearly 18 years. Originally from Trinidad and Tobago, they had migrated to New York City in search of better opportunities. Life in the Caribbean had been hard. Economic instability, limited job opportunities, and a desire for a better future for their children had pushed the decision to migrate. They overstayed a tourist visa, like so many others before them, hoping the system would eventually allow them to normalize their status. But that day never came. 4 years, they lived under the radar. Marvin Mendez worked long hours as a delivery driver and sometimes picked up night shifts cleaning offices. His wife, Yvonne, worked as a home health aide. Their children, Tariq, the oldest at 19, Marcia, 16, and the youngest, Joel, 9, were all born or raised in the US and knew no other home. They lived modestly in a 2-bedroom apartment in the Bronx, attending church every Sunday, celebrating Thanksgiving with jerk turkey and curry goat, and listening to old soca and calypso music that reminded them of the island they had long left behind. Despite their undocumented status, they had built a life, friends, community, and dreams. Then came the knock on the door. It was 6:15 a.m., a grey Tuesday morning, when U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement showed up at their door. A neighbor had anonymously tipped off ICE about a household with undocumented immigrants. There was no time to gather belongings, no appeals left. They were detained, and within 3 weeks, deportation proceedings were finalized. They were placed on a flight to Ghana, not even Trinidad, because of ancestral lineage traced back to their great-grandparents, and the technicality in their paperwork. It was supposed to be a symbolic return to the motherland, a humanitarian gesture that offered them a place to land. But to the Mendez family, it was exile to a foreign continent. Accra was hot, loud, and completely unfamiliar. The family was temporarily housed in a government-run reintegration center on the outskirts of the city. It was a far cry from their Bronx apartment, cracked walls, erratic electricity, communal showers. The children, especially Joel, struggled to comprehend what was happening. He asked every day when they were going home. Marcia was bitter, disconnected from her surroundings, and embarrassed to be in a place where her American accent made her stick out like a sore thumb. Tariq, trying to be the man of the house now, bottled up his anger and grief, helping his father find work at the bustling Mukalla market. Back in Trinidad, they had a few extended relatives, but years of silence had turned those relationships cold. In Ghana, they knew no one. They were Afro-Caribbean, not Ghanaian, and this distinction mattered. They looked like everyone else, but felt like strangers. Their English carried island cadences. They didn't speak Chui or Ewe. They didn't know the customs, didn't understand the currency, and they didn't own anything. All their savings were tied up in the US bank accounts now frozen, their belongings auctioned off. In the town of Oyarifa, where they eventually found a small room to rent, they were nicknamed Abrofo, a term sometimes used for black foreigners with Western habits. Some neighbors scoffed behind their backs. 18 years in America, and they come back with nothing. The shame clung to them, red dust on the unpaved roads. Marvin began doing manual labor at construction sites. His body, used to driving and light lifting, now endured hours of brick carrying and scaffold work under the harsh African sun. Yvonne started selling homemade pastries by the roadside, using recipes she remembered from her mother: cassava pone, coconut drops, and fried bakes stuffed with spicy meat. Tariq enrolled in a local university, reluctantly, using the small stipend the Ghanaian government offered deported returnees. But he hated it. He felt like an imposter and frequently skipped classes. Marcia refused to go to school altogether. She didn't see the point. Joel, however, was different. He had always been a quiet child, observant and curious. He would spend hours watching people, copying their accents, learning Chui phrases from kids in the neighborhood. He began picking up the local slang and making friends in the area. One day, Joel found an old smartphone someone had discarded in a trash heap. It was broken, the screen shattered, but with the help of a local shop owner who liked the boy's tenacity, he managed to get it working. It didn't have a SIM card, but it could connect to Wi-Fi. That changed everything. Joel began using the phone to explore YouTube. He watched videos on everything: how to fix electronics, how to code, how to animate cartoons, how to create music. He'd sit outside a nearby cafe that offered free Wi-Fi, spending hours absorbing content. Inspired, Joel began experimenting with animation. He didn't have a stylus, so he used his fingers to draw characters using basic free apps. He created short clips, funny, often based on his experiences in Ghana as a foreign child. He'd draw exaggerated scenes of his mom hustling at the roadside or the culture shock of eating banku for the first time. He posted them online under the name Jollof Kid. His first few videos got a handful of views. But one day, a Ghanaian-American YouTuber stumbled upon one of Joel's skits and shared it on Twitter. It went viral. Suddenly, Joel was gaining followers thousands. His mix of humor, art, and Afro-Caribbean perspective struck a chord with viewers, both in Ghana and across the diaspora. His animations weren't just funny, they were stories of displacement, of adaptation, of cultural clash, all told through the eyes of a child who had been cast out by one world and thrown into another. Within 6 months, Joel had 200,000 subscribers. He was approached by animation networks, offered mentorship programs, and even invited to join a virtual International Youth Creators Summit. A British NGO that supported displaced youth sponsored him with a laptop and tablet to improve his work. Joel's income began trickling in through YouTube monetization and donations from fans on Patreon. He surprised his parents one day by handing his mom a wad of Ghanaian cedis, more money than she had seen in months. Marvin cried, "My son, this little boy, saved us." Joel didn't stop there. He started a project called Stories from Nowhere, where he animated real stories of young deportees and displaced Afro-descendants adjusting to life in Africa. It became a cultural bridge, a voice for the voiceless. The Ghanaian government took notice. He was featured in a local documentary, and NGOs invited him to speak about reintegration through creativity. Eventually, a tech company sponsored him with a full scholarship of a spot at a digital arts academy in Accra. By the time Joel turned 13, his income was enough to rent a 2-bedroom apartment for the family. They moved out of the cramped room in Oyo Arifa into a modest but comfortable home. Marsha returned to school and started a fashion page on Instagram. Inspired by Joel's drive, Tariq resumed his university classes and even started tutoring others in English literature. Yvonne expanded her pastry business, and Marvin began managing a delivery team with a local logistics startup. The town that once mocked them now spoke of them with awe. The Abrofo who came back empty had turned their pain into purpose. And for Joel, Africa no longer felt like exile. It had become the canvas on which he painted a new life. Years later, Joel Mendez became a well-known animator and storyteller, using his voice to highlight stories of the African diaspora. He was invited to speak at universities in South Africa, participate in panels in Nairobi, and even received an invitation to return to the US, this time legally to attend a Global Creatives Conference in Los Angeles. But Joel paused, then turned down the invitation. Not because he hated America, but because he had found purpose in a place he once feared. He stayed to teach animation to underprivileged kids in Accra, offering them the same tools that had rescued him. He had come back with nothing, but through vision, grit, and heart, he gave his family everything they had lost and more. As time passed, the Mendez began to adapt to their new reality. They learned to embrace the challenges, celebrating small victories along the way. They discovered the resilience of their spirit, the strength of their family bond, and the importance of community support. Their story is a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome adversity The Mendez journey serves as an inspiration to all those who face unexpected challenges, reminding us that even in the face of adversity, we can rebuild our lives, find our strength, and create a new future.